everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to make some homemade bread, and what you'll need is 2 cups of warm water, some flour, and you can use any type of flour that you want. And with this recipe, the nutrition facts will vary depending on what type of flour you use. Some vegetable oil, some sugar, and then some yeast. Alright, and the first step that we need to do is we need to pour the 2 cups of warm water into a bowl. And then we need to measure out a 1/2 cup of white sugar. It should look something like that. And then we need to have a tablespoon, measuring spoon. And we need to measure out 2 tablespoons of the white sugar that's already in these 2 cups, and we have to dissolve it into the warm water. And with measuring stuff out, it's important that you get it as flat as possible so that it's as accurate as you can get it. And then we need to let the sugar dissolve in there. And then after the sugar is dissolved in there, it should look something like this. Alright, and then we need to stir in the yeast. And we need 1.5 tablespoons of active dry yeast. Right, and then we have to stir it in that yeast. And after these are mixed together, it should look something like this. And if there are a few clumps, then that's okay. And then with mixing stuff together, you want it to be as mixed up as good as you can get it. And with the yeast mixture, we're going to let it sit there for 5 minutes. Alright, and after the yeast has been sitting in the water and sugar for about 5 minutes, we're going to use a rubber spatula, which looks like this. And then we are going to measure out some vegetable oil. And then we're also going to put the sugar in there with the vegetable oil. Right, and we need to measure out 1/4 cup of vegetable oil. Right, and then it should look something like this, and we're going to pour that in. And then we're going to mix that together with the rubber spatula. And once again, with mixing ingredients together, it's important that you get the ingredients as mixed up as good as you can get it. And once the sugar and oil is mixed into the yeast mixture, it should look something like this. Alright, and with the next step, we are going to measure out the flour. And I am using whole wheat flour. And then we need 5 to 6 cups of flour. And I would recommend starting out with 5 cups. And then like, if it's a little sticky, try adding a little bit more flour. And there's 4 cups right there. And we're going to pour that in. And then I need to add another cup. Right. And there's that 1 cup. And then we are going to mix that together now. Alright, and with this part, we need, and to mix it, I recommend folding it like this. And then when it's like starting to clump together like this, then that's normal. And then we keep on doing this until we can't see any flour anymore. Or if you want, after you fold it some like this, you can use your hands to help mix it together too. Alright, and then like when your dough is all mixed up, it should look something kind of like a little clumpy like this. But if you're not using whole wheat flour, then it really shouldn't look like this, because like the different types of flour that you use will like affect like the texture and like how it rises and all that. But then let's go on to the next step. Alright, and then with this next step here, we are going to take some flour, spread it out on the table like this. Okay, there. And then we're going to take this dough out of the bowl and then put it right here. Yeah. Okay. And then we are going to knead this dough together for 7 minutes. Alright, and for this step, we'll need some spray oil, or in other words, cooking oil. And then we need to spray a bowl. And then we're going to take our dough, put it into the bowl. And we're going to turn it to coat it. Alright. And then after that, we need to get a damp cloth and put it over the dough. And then once that is done, we have to let the dough sit in here like this for about 1 hour. Alright, and for this step, we're going to take the cloth off of it. And then we are going to take the dough out of the bowl and put it on the table. And then we're going to punch this down and then knead it. And with this, like after a few punches, you can always flip it and then do the same to the other side too. Right, and then we are going to knead this for a little bit. Oh, this bread smells so good. Even though it hasn't been baked yet. Alright, and for this part, we will need some bread pans, which look something like this. And then we'll need some cooking spray, and then we're going to spray the pans. But I'm going to start out with one for now. And then we are going to take some of this dough, and then put it in here. And I don't recommend like filling these pans up any more than like halfway, depending on what type of flour you use, because like if you use like white flour or like wheat flour or like bread flour, then like it's gonna rise some. But if you use like almond flour or like coconut flour, it's not gonna rise the same because it's like made differently. Right, and then still have some leftover dough. Oh yeah, and then with the consistency with this bread, like it will vary from like flour to flour. Here I'm gonna put the rest of this into here and then spread it out. Oh, I have to wash the table. Okay, and this stuff, try and get it leveled out as good as I can get it. Alright. And then we are going to leave this in the pans raw like this for 30 minutes. So it's just to give it a little bit of a chance to rise a little bit more. And with the bread, after it's sat for half an hour, it still looks something like this. And with the bread, like it's like you can either let it sit for like 30 minutes or until it rises some. And now we need to preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then we bake this bread in the oven for 30 to 40 minutes. And after the bread is baking in the oven cooled off, it should look something like this. Alright, and for this part, we are going to cut up the bread with a sharpened knife, and then I'm going to scoop it out with a fork, and then I'm going to put it onto this paper plate, and then I'm going to taste test it. Alright, so I'm going to cut this in half. And then with cutting the bread up, if it's not exactly cut up in half, like the long way, like this, like, well, yeah, like that, then it's fine. Then gonna cut it into smaller pieces. And with each piece, if they're not exactly the same size, then that's okay. But as long as they're about the same size, then it's fine. Then I'm gonna do the same, well, yeah, I'm gonna finish cutting this up, and then I'm gonna have to cut that up, and then put it on the heat. And then with the bread pieces, like you can like cut them to be like whatever size you want them to be. All right, and then I got both breads to cut up, and then I'm gonna take this fork here, and then I'm gonna scoop them out. There it is. And I'm gonna put them onto this plate. And then I'm gonna do that for the rest. Alright, and then I got all of the bread cut up and put into two separate paper plates here. And then now let's taste test the bread. And then like all this bread looks like really good. And here's a piece here. Alright, and now let's taste test it. Oh, this bread is really good. Especially since it's wheat bread too. I'm sure we'll, here, let me get a different piece. You can tell that's like a little bit denser than like white bread, but it's just the type of flour that I used. Alright, and then I'm gonna try some of this bread here with this dairy-free butter right here. And then here's the lid to it. And I got a knife here to put it on there. Alright. Just like that. But it actually looks kind of like cream cheese spread though. It's actually pretty good with dairy-free butter on it. Alright, and now I'm gonna try it with some regular butter here. And I got some scooped up like this. It's actually pretty good. Alright, and now I'm gonna try some of the bread with peanut butter on it. It's actually pretty good with peanut butter on it too. And if you guys want to, you can like take some of the like pieces of this bread and like put some honey on it too.